wrapping the 3D chevron pattern. You can choose between a 4-axis or 8-axis wrap. I'll show you how to do the layout, pack the threads, and the trick to making the 3D chevron appear 3D. So if you're ready to learn a great beginner's pattern, sign up and let's start wrapping.
Welcome everybody to the VisualWRAP question and answer session for March 31st. I'm hoping everyone is well. I've had a very hectic couple of weeks with a boy in and out of hospital, which has thrown my plans up in the air, but I'm sure we all have our own challenges to deal with. So I'm hoping this session finds you well and you're itching to get into using VisualWRAP to its fullest potential. I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm hoping that you can see and hear me okay, and I'll get stuck into our agenda for tonight. So the first thing I'd like to cover is setting up some scripts and talking about the difference between different variations we have on the basic spider wrap. In doing so, I'll also talk about using the zoom window, spacing patterns to the desired length, changing colours in single step mode. It's a different way of shading. It's a manual way of shading, but it's a good way of seeing how a pattern will look when it's shaded. I'll also then touch on pattern packs, how to download them, where to find them, how to install them. And then I'd like to finish up by talking about the VisualWRAP challenge and give a big shout out to everyone who's contributed to that. I'm blown away by the entries that have taken place. I love seeing the work that people create, and hopefully they're learning a lot as they do so. The session tonight started with an introduction video, a promo video for Mary's latest online teachables course on how to do the 3D chevron wrap. Hopefully you'll get to take a look at that. Mary puts a lot of time into carefully filming and crafting an online teachable course designed to show everyone the tricks of the trade and how to achieve the fantastic results that Mary achieves. So check that out if you've not already done so. I think it was only released today, so it's hot off the press. But no better time to dive in and have a look at that. So with no further ado, I'll change my screen over to my VisualWRAP screen, and that should be looking at my VisualWRAP screen right now. If it's not, someone please send me a message and I'll try to look at that as I can, but it appears to be live as I can see it now. So what I'd like to do is set up a basic spider pattern, and that's basically a box out, cross out. So I've opened up my VisualWRAP. I'm going to launch the pattern builder, and so I'm going to do a cross that's centered at 50-50. So I'm going to actually type in 50-50, and it's going to move outwards. It's going to be a band of 1 thread each time, and I'm going to make, we'll say 20 passes. We'll see how that looks, except I've put it in the wrong area. So begin with 1 thread, make 20 passes, and say append. As I've been creating the script, the preview window has been building the line of script. It's captured all of my preferences, and when I say append, what it does is it's setting up a new pattern. So we can call this our spider test, and I'll say okay. I can give this first section a name, and we're going to call this the band. Okay. So we've got a single cross which is going to move outwards 20 times. Then I'm going to surround that by a box, and that box I'm going to change the colors of. Instead of using the spool number 1. I've selected the spools that I want to change to, and I'm going to change that to spool number 3, which happens to be this orange color. I'm going to start, say, 15 before 50 is 35, and 15 after 50 is 65. So these are coordinates on a scale of 0 to 100. The second coordinate, this 50, represents 50% of the way down the pattern repeat. So to be centered, I'm always going centered on this axis. I'm always going to use 50 in the second coordinate, and the x coordinate is this first one. So I'm going to have a box which one corner is at 35, the other corner is at 65, and it's going to go outwards, and it's going to have 20 passes. And if I say append, and if I quickly wrap that, I'm in auto mode. If I hit wrap, what do we see? We see a star pattern, but I've got this bulging thing happening in the middle. I had 20 passes for the cross moving outwards. If I make that 15 and try that again, clear wrap. Okay. So that's a very simple cross pattern, which is just a cross going outwards and a box going outwards. And because I like to compare different sorts of these cross patterns, what I'm going to do is, let me just quickly save a screenshot of that. While that's launching, let me set up a blank document. And we're going to use the snipping tool just to go new, just to take a picture of what that cross looks like, just so I can compare that later. Okay. So that's my band. So it's a box, a cross going out, a box going out, and it's set up as a band. Okay. So now what I'd like to do, I'm going to set up a another section. And again, I'm going to use the cross out, box out type of pattern. But this time, instead of doing a band for the background, I'm going to use a +1 progression. And we'll see what effect that has on this pattern. So if I add a new section, there we go, section, and we'll call this the +1. You say OK. I just need to remove that blank line. What I need to do, I want to do a cross going outwards, a box going outwards, so I can basically copy and paste that script line that I've got there. There's many different ways of doing this. I'm just showing you a way that I'm comfortable working within this script. This script is basically just a text editing box. I can highlight lines of scripts. If I right click on that, I can say copy. And then if I come to the end of this section header and go enter, and then right click, I could then paste. So what I've done is I've reproduced those lines of script down here. And this time, instead of a box which is moving outwards with a band of 1, what I'll do is I'll change that to a +1. And the easiest way to do it is to put your cursor on the line, hit Builder, and when we do that, it launches the builder and it looks at all of the selections that were made in the line where the cursor was, and it's found the fact that we have a box that is going out with a band of 1. Now I'm going to change that band to a plus type progression. So we're going to go +1, which means on every subsequent pass, we're adding one extra set of threads. So on the first pass, the box will be made up of one set of threads. On the second pass, it'll be two sets of threads, etc. And as the pattern goes on, we get more and more threads appearing in the background. Through experience, I know that if I was to do 20 passes at +1, very quickly that balloons out to be a huge number of threads. So just using my judgment, I'm going to make that 10 passes. And then when I hit replace, I'm not sure if you saw that, but it's changed the band 1 to be +1. So I'd like to wrap this second part of the script, and I'd like to ignore the first part of the script. There's a couple of ways we could do that. The easiest way probably is to launch the scope button. And when I do that, it shows me the sections that are available to wrap. I'm just going to deselect the first section, which leaves the second section called +1 selected. If I say OK, if I now hit clear and then wrap, what it's done is it's made the pattern, and it's continued wrapping, and it's made a bit more of a pattern. What I'd like to do, because to show you what I mean, if I go into delay and go clear and then wrap, what this is going to do is wrap thread by thread. And as it's doing that, we see that that's going pretty slow. I'm going to go into single mode and go next and keep my finger on the enter key while it's in next, and we can see that it is building the familiar spider pattern, and we see that eventually it does close nicely, but then because of the number of passes, it wants to keep going. If I hit enter, it wants to keep going, and then it starts overlapping on itself, and then we get these weird patterns forming. So I was practicing a little bit earlier, and I know that if I use 15 passes, it's too many. If I use 8 passes on both lines here and go clear and wrap, it's still in single mode. Let's change it to auto mode. Bang, we've just wrapped this pattern, and what we can see is that it's still a cross out, box out pattern, but if I take a screenshot of that, okay, let's just screenshot what that spider looks like. Copy that, and then put that next to the original pattern we wrapped. We can see that they've both started with the same layout. It's an initial cross and a box which is moving outwards, but by changing the rate at which the background is filling, we end up with what is practically a totally different pattern. And what we see too is the legs of that spider is somewhat curved, whereas the legs of this cross here are straight. So keeping that in mind, we'll try a third variation. Let's just close our builder for a second. So let's put a third section in there. And again, I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to right click and say copy. I'm then going to press enter to put the cursor into a new line. I'm going to right click and say paste. And then what we should see is what we'd like to do this time. Instead of using a +1 progression, we'd like to change this back to a band progression, and we'll change the number of threads in the band. So to do that, if I highlight the line of script, hit Builder. At the moment, we're going outwards with a +1 progression. Let's change it back to a band, and instead of a band of 1, this time let's try a band of 4. So it's a band of 1, 2, 3, 4, which means each time we make a pass of threads, we're going to use 4 threads at a time. So if I then say replace, what that has done is it has set a band of 4 threads for this background which is moving outwards. What I'd like to do is just wrap that third section. Again, if I launch the scope, and to reduce confusion there, let's change the name of this third section to be band times 4. So once we've done that, we then launch our scope builder, decide we only want to see the third section, which is our band times 4 section wrapped. We say OK to that. If I hit clear and then wrap, right, what we see is a spider, and now it's got somewhat different legs. So if I take a screenshot of that, I'm going to copy that, say copy, and then place that onto my comparison document. So we can see this first one was a band of 1. This second one was a +1 background. This third one is a band of 4. And what we see there is it's changed the angle of the legs. I mean, compared to the first one, it's still at a constant angle, but it's at a steeper angle, and that's because we're using 4 threads at a time rather than 1 thread at a time. Compared to the +1, the +1 has curved legs. And if we were to look closely, if I could zoom in on that, we can see there's some curvature because if you can see where my cursor is, we've got like a small step and then a larger step and then a progressively larger step. And those larger steps are as a result of there being extra threads in the +1 progression every time there's a new pass. So 1 thread initially in the box, and then next time it's 2 threads in the box, and then next time it's 3 threads in the box, etc. Whereas in the band of 4 threads, it's a multiple number of threads in each band of the box, but it's the same number each time, and so the legs are straight. So hopefully that adds to your understanding of how some of these subtle pattern variations are created. If I look at let's say out of interest, when we wrap our pattern, you might think, well, the pattern hasn't closed properly. What happens if I want to see that pattern fully closed? Well, let's experiment. We know we need more threads in the background to close that pattern. At the moment, we've got 8 passes in our background. I'm going to change that to 9, and we'll just see what happens. I'm not sure if that's going to close nicely, or if the 9th pass is then going to overlap the rest of the pattern. So if I hit wrap with 9, well, I'm lucky it's closed nicely. If it had not closed nicely, for example, if it was, say, 10 and I hit wrap, even that's okay. If it was too many, I would realize that I would have to reduce the number of passes to close nicely. Get to 10. So in this case, we've got a nicely closed background, but we still have this color of the rod underneath the spider, and we might not be happy with that. We might like to see that fully closed as well. So that's where I would use an underwrap, and I can change the underwrap color. Oops. To this orange. It might be that one. I'm not sure if it's that color or not. But if I hit clear, it sets the background to the underwrap color. Then when I hit wrap, there is a slight color difference there. But if I was to set the underwrap to be exactly the same color as the background color, then it would be consistent. Now, on your system, you might not see that underwrap appear. And there's a reason for that. If you go into the Preferences menu, when you hit Preferences, up pops this helpful little set of settings. And that allows you to make various adjustments. If you go onto wrapping, in fact, if you go onto, where is it? Wrapping. There's the box here on the flat view that says use an underwrap, yes or no. If I say don't use an underwrap and then apply, see how that has disappeared? So on your system, you may not see the underwrap to start with. If you do use an underwrap and say apply, then that box appears. And another tip is these spools are numbered 1 to 8. These remaining spool colors are actually spools 9, 10, 11, and 12, and you can manually use those spool numbers in the script if you want to get into editing a script manually. Out of interest as well, on your system, when you wrap a pattern, you might see some gaps between threads. So that's because when you draw a line on a screen, sometimes it's difficult to predict how closely those lines are going to appear next to each other, and that'll depend on your screen resolution. So there's this flat view thread width thinnest to thickest setting. If it was set to the thinnest, if I say apply, if I hit say OK, if I hit clear and then wrap, see I've got lots of gaps between threads. And if I again go to preferences, I'll do that. Go here and change that to say thickest. Okay. Okay. I think I need to reset for some reason. Let me try that. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see me again. Even after 20 years of using this software, I learn something new every day. So I've recovered the system, so we're back in business. So you should be able to see my screen. As I was saying, with preferences, you can change the thread thickness. So if you are seeing gaps between your threads, change your thread setting to a thicker setting and see how that works. Now, another feature I'd like to show is the zoom window. So if I hit on window zoom, up pops this zoom window. And the idea here was to give as much detail as possible to the wrap. So if I hit wrap, what that does is it, instead of sending the pattern to the flat view window, it sends it to the zoom window. And because it's zoomed in so much, you are going to see gaps between threads, even though it is on the highest thread width setting. But hopefully that does give you a closer look at how threads are being laid down, and that detail might help you if you're just trying to understand the order in which things are meant to happen. So anything that would normally be sent to the flat view window will be sent to the zoom window whilst the zoom window is visible. So for example, if we go into single thread mode by clicking on single, and if I hit clear and then I hit wrap, now it'll single step through the pattern in this zoom window. And again, I can go on to delay, and that will slowly but surely wrap the pattern thread by thread. In fact, another setting that's in the preferences is how many seconds to allow between each of the threads. So I can speed that up by launching preferences and reducing the time. And if I hit auto, that will finish wrapping. Okay, so what we've done is we've set up a pattern. We've looked at 3 different variations of that same pattern. We've managed to crash VisualWRAP. We've shown the zoom window. And what I'd like to touch on briefly now is spacing to a desired length. So when we wrap a pattern, and if I just change the pattern so that it's a little bit more easy to see, hang on, I'll just change that under wrap again to be a, why didn't that under wrap didn't take, that should take clear wrap. Okay. So if I want to size this to suit my rod, I would select the number of pattern repeats that I'd like to see. If I wrap the pattern, say OK, I then go to my taper view window. So in the taper view window, we could set up the butt diameter and tip diameter of the rod. And the way I do that is you're never quite sure where the tip is going to be, because you're never quite sure how long the wrap is actually going to be on your rod. So the way to do it is to take your calipers, measure the center position of the wrap. So get the diameter. In fact, if I launch the 3D viewer, I can show you more clearly what I mean. That will just take a couple of moments to appear. If I go fit, okay. So if I take my calipers and go to where I believe the center of the wrap is going to be, and measure the diameter from that point there to that point there, I then enter that diameter in both the butt measurement and the tip measurement. So in this case, let's say I'll use easy numbers to make my demonstration go more easily. Say this was the actual size of my rod, and I had a butt diameter of 12 and a tip diameter at 10 in the vicinity of the wrap. If I took my calipers and measured in the center, I would say that is going to be a measurement of 11. If I go 11, 11, and go refresh, what that will do is it will calculate the wrap length. So that's saying for a diameter of blank, which has a tip diameter of 11 millimeters, 3 pattern repeats, if they are square patterns, are going to take up 103 millimeters along the rod. And if I go to the spacing table and hit 2D draw, those are the spacings you would expect to see. So it means the end of the wrap is at 103 millimeters. So now that the software has told you that your wrap is 103 millimeters long, you can go back to your blank. You can measure your actual butt diameter, which we knew from before was 12. We can then go 103 millimeters along the rod and measure the tip diameter. And because I chose easy numbers before, that tip diameter would be 10. If I close that and go refresh, the overall length is maintained, but the actual taper of the rod is included. So that's the software calculating the wrap length based on knowing the tip and butt diameters in the vicinity of the wrap. You may want to tweak that slightly. Maybe you want a slightly longer pattern with the same number of repeats, or a slightly shorter pattern with the same number of repeats. That's what this screen and print option is designed to do. So what is shown on the screen is a wrap length of 103 millimeters. But maybe this is going to go in the split grip on the bottom of your rod between two of your handle pieces, and that gap might be, say, 110 millimeters, not 103 millimeters. So what you can do is go to the print option by clicking that print radio button and actually enter in that manual length you would like it to be. So in this case, 110. If I now go refresh and then launch my spacing, that didn't take. What didn't that take? If I go 110 and then recalculate, what we see now is the length of the wrap has been adjusted to be 110. And if I go 2D draw, what that will do is that will adjust those spacings to suit the wrap length that we've chosen. So that gives us a little bit of fine-tuning control when we want to adjust the length of the wrap. Okay. So just taking a breather for a second. The next thing I'd like to do is show how to manually shade a pattern in single step mode. So what we'll do here, if I go clear wrap, what we've got, just bear with me as I get this set up. So I go clear wrap, okay. I'm just looking at this cross out, box out. I could have done it with any of them really, but I thought I'd just mix it up a bit. And what I'd like to do is apply some manual shading to this black cross, because a black cross can be pretty boring at times. So let's shade that either from dark to light or light to dark. And let's decide up front what sort of shading we're going to use, what colors we're going to use. So if I use spools 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's 5 spools. Let's set those to go from dark to light. So let's set spool number 4. If I launch that, I've got the NURBS shade pack thread library loaded. If I scroll down till I see there should be a smoke shade pack, I think it's called. Keep going. Grey smoke. Okay. So what I'd like to do is, knowing that I'm starting with a black here, I'd like to say use grey 10, and then the next one I'll say use grey 7. I mean, you can fine tune this, and then say grey, how many more? I've got 3 more. Say grey 5, and then say grey 3, and lucky last we'll go to grey 1. Okay, so I'd like to shade this black cross starting at black and going lighter and lighter each time. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spools I can use, and what we've got is 15 passes which make up this cross which is moving outwards. So if I just do a little bit of, I guess, pre-calculation here. So what have we got? We've got 15 passes, and we know we've got 6 threads, 6 colors, 6 shades we want to use. So if I used 2 for each pass, that would give me 12. I need another 3. So let's go, well, it'd be nice if I could use 3 each time. So instead of having 15 passes in my pattern, because I can cheat because I've set up the pattern myself, if this was, say, 18, I could then use 3 each of the colors. What does that look like if I wrap it? It goes too far. 17, 16. So let's, I've got 16 passes. So 16 passes and 6 shades. Let's use 12 and get it on the same page so we can see what's going on. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the last one would have 1 in it, wouldn't it? So 16 passes. There are 6 shades to use. So if we used 3 passes on most and then 1 pass on the last, that would give us 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 passes. That's what we want. So we're going to use, say, 3 of the first, 3 of the second, third, fourth, fifth, and then 1 of the last. So let's do that manually. What we're going to do, we're simply wrapping that first cross. We're going to put it into single step mode. And what we know is that we need to do 3 passes each, except for the last. So let's go clear, we go single step mode, we go wrap. Now at the moment, the first line that's going to wrap is this cross, and it's using spool 1. So if I go, that's the first pass, and now it's doing the background. And this is the second pass of the cross going outwards, and then it's doing the background. And then the third cross, and then the background. So what I've just done is the first of these 3. I now want to do the next 3 in the next color that I'm shading with. So the next three, in fact, I didn't have to set up those additional colors, but what I'll do is I'll change black. I'll change spool 1 to be now which did we choose? I think it was grey 10. I'll change it to grey 10. So now when I go next 3 times, that's the first time, that's the second time, that's the third pass. I've now got spool 1 has changed to the second background colour, and then manually change that to the third colour we want to use. 1 pass, 2 passes, 3 passes. Manually change it to the next one. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass. Let's go lighter again. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass. Oops. Do we have any left? I think we might be out. We finish off that wrap. And what we've ended up with is a cross that's been manually shaded. And if I was to hit wrap again now, and go in auto mode, it'll overwrite that. That's the nature of the manual shading. You only get a single pass at it, but it allows you to quickly see. So if I very quickly went the other way, if I started light, and if I go single wrap, one pass, 2 passes, 3 passes, then start to make it a bit darker. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 passes, go a bit darker. 1 pass, 2 passes, 3 passes, a bit darker again. 1, 2, 3. Darker again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and there we see the shading done from light to dark instead of dark to light. So that's a quick look at how to manually shade using single step mode in Vizwrap. Hopefully I didn't confuse you as much as I was confused in setting that up, but we got there in the end, so that's the main thing. The next thing I'd like to look at is pattern packs. So when I originally set up Vizwrap, it didn't ship with any patterns, and then soon after it was launched, Billy did a lot of work to set up a standard pattern library, and that standard pattern library consisted of approximately 100 patterns. So in the standard pattern library, there's about 100 patterns that you can choose from, and so if you find a pattern that you like, you can wrap it, and that's what it looks like. And that standard pattern library is available for download on the Vizwrap website or the ThreadCentral website for free. Then in more recent years, a number of people contributed to setting up some pattern packs, and we now have 4 pattern packs which are available for purchase on the website on ThreadCentral, and each pattern pack consists of approximately 150 patterns. So I'd like to show you what it means to purchase and download those pattern packs. So if I launch a browser, where is that? If I launch this one, and as I'm going through this, I'm hardly having any time to glance at any comments. Harvey's asked, when wrapping in single mode, is there a way to back up a step or two? No, there's not, unfortunately. In a future version there will be, but we're not at that stage just yet. So if I go to ThreadCentral, ThreadCentral.net, and launch that, this is the home page, and you can take a look at VisualWRAP, VisualWeave, the Snapper photographic kit, and we have the download store. So if you click on download store, here is where you can buy stuff. So in our case, we are interested in purchasing pattern packs, and you can purchase pattern packs individually for about $30 each, or you can purchase the 4 packs as a bundle for about $100. That's a saving of approximately 20%. So for the purpose of this example, I'm going to make a dummy purchase of one of these pattern packs. 3 is my favorite number, so I'm going to click on VisualWRAP Pattern Pack 3. It shows me a 1 or 2 images describing the pattern pack. It says, please ensure that you've got VisualWRAP software in order to use these patterns. And we're going to purchase one of those. So we'll say purchase. And then that's added to our cart. So then when I click on checkout, what it's saying is there's one pattern pack there. It's going to cost me that much money. Do I have a discount code? Well, in my case, because I'm in charge of the website, I've given myself a discount code. So, and before anyone has any good ideas, this discount code only works once, and I'm using it now. So Vizwrap QA is my personal discount code. We say apply. Okay, so that's going to give me, in my case, a free purchase. I put in my details, I say purchase. I must agree to the terms of use, fair enough. Okay. So once I purchase that, 2 things should happen. A screen should pop up which has links to the download. So here's the screen that pops up. It confirms that I've made a purchase, and there's a link here. The second thing that will happen in the background is an email will be sent to my email address. So that email also has this link in it. When I click on the link, you might see that I'm downloading a zip file. So if I then minimize that window, and where's it gone, you might think. So if I open up my File Explorer, and go to my Downloads area, Downloads, and in my Downloads, Pattern Pack 3 zip. So what I would like to do, open that file location. Well, actually, if I just open up that zip file, they are the script files that make up Pattern Pack number 3. So what I can do is I can copy those, and then what I want to do is put those into my VisualWRAP patterns folder. So the default location for that is on your C drive. So if I go to C, Program Files, x86, VisualWRAP, Patterns, and then I could create a new folder. In my case, I'm going to call it Pattern Pack 3 Demo for the purposes of tonight. I go into that folder and I can paste those pattern scripts that I've just purchased. And what it'll do is it'll copy each of those scripts into that location. It'll also copy the pattern index file, which is basically a PDF of all of the images of the patterns. So now they've copied across. If I was to go now back into my VisualWRAP and say open, do I want to save the current pattern? No. Do I want to clear the current pattern? Yes. I go into my VisualWRAP patterns folder and suddenly my Pattern Pack 3 demo folder is there, and they are all of the patterns which I've just downloaded. So let's look at, say, a rose with thorny leaves. If I click clear, hit wrap, there we are. So that's a quick rundown on how to purchase and download pattern packs. As I mentioned, that discount code that I used just now was a single discount code set up for me. I'm going to type a comment in here, and it's called QA _ take 10. So into the Facebook comments, I've just put a discount code for the ThreadCentral download store, and anyone can use that to get 10% off anything in the download store until, I think I've set it to expire at the end of this weekend. So between now and the end of this weekend, you're welcome to use that QA take 10 discount code. That will give you 10% off any purchase in the download store. One topic I'd like to finish up on is the VisualWRAP challenge. So if I change my screen back to the slideshow that I set up for the VisualWRAP challenge, I've been absolutely blown away by the number of people who have submitted entries into the VisualWRAP challenge. The idea of the challenge was to pick a pattern in VisualWRAP, modify that pattern in some way. Maybe it's as simple as changing a color, maybe it's actually editing the script. Then take a screenshot of what it looks like on your computer and then wrap it and show the world what it looks like on your rod. And the idea there is to show off your skills, but more to improve your skills. The NURBs are all about improving yourself, pushing yourself to do better, and if it's not good enough, then consider cutting it off and trying again. So what we've tried to do as part of this challenge is help people understand how better to use the VisualWRAP software, and in doing so, improve your thread skills and hopefully have some fun along the way. I've certainly had a ball running these Q&A sessions. I'm making mistakes left, right and centre, but I'm learning as we go along as well, and I find it highly motivating. Hopefully I'm not boring anyone to tears, but I'm certainly having a bit of fun. And as I said, I'm blown away by the people who have taken the time to screenshot the VisualWRAP patterns that they've chosen and wrap them on a rod and put them in. I mean, it shows a lot of dedication and commitment, and I know how long it takes to do a decorative wrap, and it can be daunting to show off your work as well. So I'd like to say thank you for everyone who's entered. But more than that, I'd like to, I guess, make some tangible thanks. So if I can go back to my screenshot, and certainly at the beginning of the challenge, I said there wouldn't be any individual winners in this challenge. In fact, anyone who enters would be a winner, because they're the ones who are learning and improving all the time. What I'd like to do is find a site which was called, it was random name. Is it this one? Let me come here. bear with me for a second. It was called Random Name Picker, I think. Random Name Picker. And what I've done is I've gone through all of the entries I could find to the Vizwrap challenge, and I've collected the names of all those people who have entered. So I've collected those names into a file called Vizwrap challenge names, and here's a list of the names of people that I can see have entered it. And as I said before, 3 is my favorite number. So I'm going to choose 3 names at random from this list and provide those 3 names with a $25 voucher to be used at Bass Pro. So this website apparently will choose 1 name at a time for me. So if I pick the first random name, it's telling me, drum roll please, the first winner is Lloyd Warrington. And I'm just writing these down so I've got reference. Let's pick a second random name. Anthony Palladora. And then our third random name, John Crumbs. So congratulations to each of those people. I'll make sure I get in touch with you, or you're welcome to contact me as well if you happen to be watching. And I'll be making the Bass Pro gift voucher available to you in the most suitable method. So thanks everybody. This brings me to the end of the challenge for today. Hopefully you've got something out of it. I certainly had some fun trying to recover from crashing my own software on a live Facebook session. But that's life. We get knocked down and we get ourselves picked up again. Life goes on. Hopefully you're having some fun learning to use the software and helping to show off your skills to other people as well if you're that way inclined. Thank you everyone who's contributed to the VisualWRAP challenge. Thank you for everyone too who supports me through purchasing items from the ThreadCentral download store. I very much appreciate everyone's support, and over time more and better and different products will be coming out, especially due to the collaboration which is underway between myself, Billy Vivona and Mary Christy. We're putting our heads together to deliver better and more innovative products, and hopefully you enjoy what we put together. On that note, have a good evening. I'd like to finish with a promotional video showing off Mary's online Decorative Wraps Teachable school. So have a look at that, and following the promotional video, I will finish this Facebook Live session. Thank you everyone for your time tonight. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Mary Christy and I'm the creator of the Decorative Studio. I've been wrapping decorative wraps since 2013 and I'm happy to introduce an online school that teaches you how to do decorative wraps from start to finish. Anyone can take these classes regardless if you're a beginner or looking for a more advanced style of wrap. Each course focuses on an individual pattern that walks you through planning, wrapping, and completing a wrap. So if you're ready to learn how to complete a decorative wrap, sign up and let's start wrapping.